Sagittarius, be bold. This is your moment to reclaim the light that's always been yours. Hello and welcome, Sagittarius Sun, Moon, and Rising. This message is for every seeker born under the Archer's constellation. A collective gathering of spirits yearning to rise, expand, and remember. Today, I invite you to pause and feel into the space between breath and possibility. There is something stirring within you, Sagittarius. A light that's not foreign, not borrowed, but wholly yours. And now it's calling to be reclaimed. If you've been feeling the ache of restlessness or the quiet murmur of untapped potential, know that this is not a coincidence. Spirit has drawn you here at this precise moment for a reason. There is a divine invitation unfolding in your life, one that asks you to rise. Not with force, but with trust. This is not a journey of isolation. It's a shared voyage among Sagittarian souls everywhere. You are not alone. And as we tune in together, hearts aligned, intentions open, let us be reminded that we are guided, always, by something far greater than ourselves. Before we move deeper, take a moment to breathe. Settle your energy. And if these words find a home in your spirit, consider liking, sharing, or subscribing to Zodiac Wisdom. Your presence here helps this channel become a lighthouse for others walking a similar path. Let's draw our first oracle and begin. Gate 1. Sagittarius, Sacred Alignment. Reclaiming authority and abundance. Sagittarius, you are standing at the edge of something vast, something sacred. Spirit is asking you not to rush past this moment, but to stand still, even for a breath, and feel the magnitude of your becoming. At the core of this chapter is not simply financial transformation, it is a reclamation of authority. Not dominance over others, but the bold remembrance that your destiny has always been yours to shape. And now, with clarity sharpening and purpose beckoning, you are being called to realign with your sacred power. Let us begin with the image of the Emperor. In many traditions, the Emperor represents divine masculine energy, structure, order, discipline. But in the Sagittarian soul, this archetype wears a different face. It is not a rigid king behind stone walls. It is a mountain guide, patient and deliberate, showing you where to place your next step. Think of Amara, a Sagittarius rising I once worked with. She was a gifted writer full of fire, always dreaming, but her financial life was chaos. For years she avoided structure, believing discipline would dim her light. But Spirit had other plans. A health scare forced her to pause and reassess. She realized that abundance wasn't the absence of limits. It was the devotion to what truly mattered. She began organizing her finances like she curated her art, intentionally, lovingly. Within 6 months, her scattered income became sustainable. Her nervous system relaxed. She didn't become less Sagittarius. She became more sovereign. Sagittarius, the lesson here is clear. Structure isn't a prison. It is a container for freedom. When you avoid budgeting, scheduling, or prioritizing, you think you're staying free. But often you're just staying stuck. The Emperor in your life now is a sacred mirror, asking you to define what matters, to set boundaries where chaos once ruled, and to build systems that support your fire instead of smothering it. From here, we move into the energy of the lovers. Not just romantic love, but the alignment between desire and responsibility. What if your financial chaos or career indecision wasn't a failure, but a signal that your inner compass had gone unlistened to? Let's explore that through another story, this time, a Sagittarian son named Leo. He was working in corporate finance, making 6 figures, but waking up every day with a stone in his chest. His heart longed for meaning, but the golden handcuffs were tight. After years of ignoring his intuition, Leo finally sat down with himself and asked the question we all must face. What am I really building? The Lover's card came up in his reading that day, reminding him that soul and strategy must walk hand in hand. He didn't quit overnight. He started small, volunteering on weekends, exploring nonprofit consulting. Within a year, he transitioned into purpose-led work. His income dipped at first, but his joy expanded. The alignment between heart and action became his new wealth. Sagittarius, ask yourself, what are you building that your heart doesn't believe in? Where are you choosing safety over soul? The lovers remind you. When you make choices aligned with your essence, the universe recalibrates. You don't lose, you refine. Next, let us look toward the universe card, also known as the world. This is the card of completion and expansion, and in your reading, it signals a long-held cycle nearing its close. Perhaps you've been in survival mode financially, hustling, stretching, burning at both ends. You learned resilience, yes, but now Spirit is asking you to release the battle stance. Completion doesn't mean perfection. It means closure. It means saying, I did what I could and now I choose differently. Maybe you've outgrown a client, a job, or even an identity. Allow this ending. For Sagittarius, growth often comes in leaps, not steps. And every leap needs a launch pad. The message is simple but profound. You are not failing. You are outgrowing. Let that truth soothe the part of you that equates worth with productivity. You're not here to endlessly climb, you're here to expand. And finally, we return to the sacral energy, the oracle of creativity, joy, and magnetism. Spirit is reminding you, your financial transformation isn't just about numbers or goals. It's about energy. When you live in lack, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you magnetize more scarcity. But when you honor your joy, your creativity, your aliveness, you draw an abundance that resonates with your essence. One practical exercise I often share. At the end of each week, light a candle and write down 3 moments that made you feel alive. Then ask, how can I create more of that? This practice is simple but potent. It reorients your financial vision, not toward fear but fulfillment. Sagittarius, your path to prosperity begins not with grinding harder, but by remembering who you are. A visionary, a philosopher, a wanderer who thrives on truth. This is not a time to shrink. It is a time to claim your space, define your legacy, and architect a life that reflects your highest values. Let's summarize your practical invitations from Spirit in this gate. Build structure with intention. Create a budgeting system that aligns with your values. Use tools that feel intuitive, not oppressive. Align heart in action. Journal about your current job or financial path. Is it in harmony with your soul's truth? Honor the ending. Write a goodbye letter to a financial cycle or mindset you're releasing. Anchor in joy. Each week, note what lights you up. Make it a non-negotiable part of your planning. Call in mentorship. Consider seeking a coach, spiritual advisor, or financial mentor who sees your soul and your strategy. Sagittarius, the light you are reclaiming is not new. It has always burned within you. But now, with eyes clearer and heart open, you finally remember. You are the fire, the arrow, and the hand that releases it. This is your season of sovereign expansion. Own it. Gate 2. Sagittarius and the sacred goodbye. Letting go to rise again. There's a silence that follows loss. An echo that doesn't demand to be fixed, only heard. Sagittarius, this is where we meet you now. In the in-between. Where the chapter hasn't quite closed, and yet the pages no longer speak the same language. This phase in your life may be marked by endings. A relationship dissolving. A role you once loved now feeling foreign. A dream that once lit you up now flickering out. And you standing there still yet not the same. It's tempting for someone with your fire to outrun this ache. To aim your arrow at the next horizon before grief fully settles. But Spirit whispers, stay a moment longer. There's gold here in the ashes. We often misunderstand loss. We believe it is a failure, a punishment, or a detour. But in truth, loss is often the first language of expansion. It is how your soul creates space. Space for a new truth. A new identity. A new chapter that would have no room to grow if the old one still cluttered the garden. Let's begin with the story of Inez, a Sagittarian moon who came to me grieving the unexpected collapse of a business she'd built for nearly a decade. It had been her pride, her baby, her identity. But the pandemic forced her to close doors. She was spiraling in shame. When she finally allowed herself to grieve, not just the business but what it represented, stability, validation, meaning, she uncovered something deeper. Beneath the ambition was a voice she had silenced for years. I'm tired of doing this alone. In her surrender, something cracked open. She began to paint again, something she had abandoned in her 20s. What started as therapy became artistry. 6 months later, she launched a community art initiative supporting women entrepreneurs through creative storytelling. And yes, it became profitable. But more importantly, it was alive. Sagittarius, sometimes what dies is not a dream, but the version of you that once needed it. What if this ending you face is not a punishment but a release? What if spirit is clearing out the debris so your soul can breathe again? Loss strips away illusions. It reveals what is essential. And while others may see only the ashes, you, Sagittarius, are born to find the ember and build the fire anew. Let us look to the Hanged Man, the sacred pause. This archetype asks you not to react but to reflect, to suspend your judgment of what is good or bad, and instead ask, what is this teaching me about who I am becoming? This kind of reflection doesn't happen in noise. It happens in stillness, in long walks, in quiet tears, in journaling by candlelight, in waking up at 3 a.m. with a truth you can no longer ignore. You may feel like you're floating between versions of yourself. That's okay. Transformation is not tidy. It is cyclical like the moon. And you, fire sign that you are being asked to learn the language of stillness, of surrender, of trust. Another story, Ravi, a Sagittarius sun and mid-career academic, lost his father unexpectedly. Their relationship had always been strained, full of unspoken tensions. Grief came with confusion. How do you mourn someone you never fully connected with? He came to me with that question, not expecting answers, just needing to be heard. In his reading, the Three of Swords appeared, yes, pain, but beside it, the star, hope. We spoke of how loss reveals the tenderness we protect most. How sometimes the grief we carry isn't just for who we lost, but for the connection that never fully happened. Ravi began writing letters to his father, not for closure, but for reclamation. Through this ritual, he uncovered his own longing for fatherhood. A year later, he adopted a son. Grief doesn't always give us neat endings, but it often gives us beginnings disguised in unfamiliar clothes. Sagittarius, you are being asked to say a sacred goodbye. Maybe not to a person, but to a pattern, a version of yourself, a belief that no longer serves. If an oracle were to speak now, it would say, let go not in bitterness but in reverence. You may want to journal on these prompts. What am I holding on to that is already gone? What part of me is afraid to admit that something has ended? What would it look like to bless this ending rather than resist it? It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to not know what's next. But Sagittarius, promise yourself this. You will not numb this sacred ache. You will feel it, and in doing so, free it. Because your heart is not broken, it is becoming. Let's end this gate with a set of actions to ground your emotional healing. Create a goodbye ritual. Light a candle. Write a letter to what you're releasing. Burn it or bury it in the earth. Name your lesson. Instead of asking, why did this happen? Ask, what did this teach me about my strength? Lean into support. Choose one friend, guide, or elder to share your story with. Someone who won't fix you, but witness you. Honor the space. Leave a physical or symbolic space open in your home for what's to come. A chair, a journal, a cleared shelf. Let it be an altar of readiness. You are not the same person you were before this loss. And that is the gift hidden within the grief. You are more tender, more awake, more capable of loving with truth. You are not broken, Sagittarius. You are blooming in unexpected soil. Gate 3, Soul Love and the Spiritual Compass of Sagittarius. Sagittarius, beneath your boldness and laughter, beneath the wide sky dreams and endless searches, there is a quiet longing, a craving not just for connection, but for truthful connection. This gate opens not with fireworks but with a hush, a sacred pause. Spirit asks, when was the last time you felt truly seen? Not for what you do, but for who you are when no one's watching. You are a lover of ideas, a teacher, a traveler of both maps and meaning. But what happens when your soul yearns not for the next adventure, but for intimacy, for something unexplainable yet unmistakable? This, Sagittarius, is the path of soul love. Let us begin with the Page of Cups, a young spirit, wide-eyed, holding a chalice with unexpected magic inside. This card represents the tender beginning of spiritual romance, not the kind that burns hot and vanishes, but the kind that whispers in dreams, that stirs the heart like déjà vu. Imagine a moment. You meet someone for the first time, but feel as if you've known them forever. The conversation flows like music. Time disappears. It isn't perfection, it's recognition. That is a soul mirror. Someone who doesn't complete you, but reflects you. Not because they echo your traits, but because they reveal the truth you've forgotten within yourself. One Sagittarius moon named Marin told me of such a meeting. She had sworn off relationships, exhausted from betrayal. But during a spiritual retreat in Bali, she met Elias, an artist from Chile. They only spent 6 days together. Yet, the soul connection was undeniable. They prayed, cried, danced under stars, and spoke of wounds that had never made it into words. There was no promise of forever, only presence. When she returned home, something in her had shifted. It wasn't about him, she said. It was about remembering that I could feel that way again. Sagittarius, love doesn't always arrive to stay. Sometimes it arrives to wake you up. Soul love teaches you that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the doorway to grace. Now let us turn to the Eight of Cups. This card doesn't symbolize heartbreak. It represents sacred departure, walking away from what no longer nourishes your soul, even if it once did. You may find yourself in a connection that feels safe, but stagnant, or a romance where passion remains but depth is absent. Spirit is not asking you to throw away love, but to redefine what it means for you. Love for you must include freedom, not distance but expansion. A partner who honors your quest, not tries to tame it. This is the lesson of the Sagittarius heart. You can be both wild and rooted. You can build a home and still seek stars. Next, we are gifted the Ace of Swords, a sharp crystalline clarity. This is the moment when fog lifts, when truth slices through illusion. And sometimes that truth is this: I've been loving from fear, not from fullness. Perhaps you've accepted crumbs, hoping they would become a feast. Or maybe you've kept your heart closed, mistaking safety for sovereignty. But the Ace of Swords says, speak your truth. Let your heart's needs be heard. Not just by others but by you. If a connection is meant to evolve, it will rise to meet your honesty. If not, your truth will set you free. Here we arrive at the Devil reversed, freedom from entanglement. This doesn't mean others have trapped you. Often it's your own belief systems. I'm too much. Real love doesn't last. I'll always be alone. Sagittarius, these chains are illusions. They were built in childhood, in heartbreak, in moments of abandonment. But you are no longer that version of yourself. You are wiser now. The key was never lost. It was simply buried in silence. This card invites you to break the spell, to rewrite the story, to love as if no past pain can decide your future. Finally, we reach the star, the crown jewel of healing. This is the light that follows the storm. Not blinding but gentle. A promise that even when love breaks, hope survives. The star reminds you that your soul's connection to the divine is what magnetizes aligned love. When you trust that spirit is your matchmaker, not just your ego, you stop chasing and start attracting. You become the fire others gather around, not to take from but to warm with. Let's pause here and anchor in reflection. Ask yourself, what does soul-aligned love feel like in my body? Where have I abandoned myself for the comfort of being chosen? What do I need to feel safe and free in love? Now, some practical invitations from Spirit. Create a soul love list. Instead of focusing on physical traits, write down the emotional and spiritual experiences you desire in a relationship. Speak truth into the mirror. Each morning, say aloud one sentence that affirms your worthiness in love. Cleanse your heart space. Light sage or Palo Santo around your bedroom. As you do, say, I release past energies. I call in soul-aligned connection. Initiate one honest conversation. Whether with a partner, a friend, or yourself, choose honesty over harmony. And most tender of all, pray for alignment, not outcome. Before sleep, place your hand on your heart. Say, Spirit, align me with the love that honors who I am becoming. Sagittarius, your spiritual compass doesn't point north. It points inward. When you follow its pull, you find not just lovers but soul partners. Not just romance but revelation. You are worthy of love that sees the fire and never asks you to dim it. You are worthy of a connection that feels like coming home. Not to someone else but to yourself. Conclusion. Sagittarius, the light you reclaim is your own. Sagittarius, take a breath. Look back on the road we've walked together. Through alignment, endings, and the sacredness of love. It hasn't been a straight path, but a spiral. A deep cosmic unfolding of who you are beneath the armor of independence and the rhythm of constant movement. You were never lost. Even in the detours, even in the heartbreaks, even in the pauses, you were circling closer to truth. This is not the end of your journey. It is a homecoming. Spirit wants you to know, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply shedding layers that no longer match the magnitude of who you've become. As we close this message, I want you to carry these truths into the quiet of your night and the boldness of your morning. You are allowed to outgrow what once felt like everything. You are allowed to start again, even if your voice trembles. You are allowed to feel joy even in the middle of rebuilding. You are allowed to love yourself so fiercely that no one else's approval is ever required again. The stars do not ask you to be perfect, they ask you to be present. Present with your fire. Present with your longing. Present with your capacity to begin anew again and again. Let this be the moment you stop asking for permission and start embodying your power. Let this be the chapter where you walk not just toward destiny, but with it. You are not here to settle for what's convenient. You are here to blaze through the sky like a comet of truth, lighting the way for others who forgot they too are made of stars. And if this message stirred something in you, if it felt like coming home to a part of yourself you didn't know you were missing, then I invite you to stay connected. Like this video if it resonated. Share it with someone who needs this light. And subscribe to Zodiac Wisdom, so this circle of guidance continues to grow. Because Sagittarius, the journey never ends. But from here it begins again, with more clarity, more courage, and a heart wide open. Stay with me. Stay with yourself. The best is not behind you. It's just now rising.